Uh, What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Late Night Show with Dr. Kojo. I'm your host, Kojo, checking in from the heart of Texas. This is a Texas show, but we still have some Los Angeles love in here, some California, Southern California love in here. We have Angel, who was on our live stream last week, so just a couple days ago, and we have her back. We're going to be talking about ADHD and autism relationship struggles. I'm checking in from the ADHD side. She's checking in from the autism side. So I'm excited to get into it. And let me make sure we're streaming everywhere. We should be streaming on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok. So with TikTok, let me make sure we're good there. If not TikTok, uh, we will stream separately. So no worries on that. All right. So we got Austin checking in. Austin, what's up? And then of course I put my little blurb by myself here. The way we oh, they can't hear me. Hold up, Angel, you can hear me, right?
I can hear you.
Okay. Can y'all hear me before I proceed? I want to make sure you can hear me. Is it an Austin thing or is it an everybody thing? Help from Baton Rouge. All right, Tina, we'll talk about it in a second. But can you hear me though, Mrs. Sativa? Can you hear me? Okay, all right, okay, they can hear me. We're good to go. Use the comment section to let me know where you all are checking in from, and then we will get going. Baton Rouge. Uh, my wife has ADHD and I'm autistic. That's a good combination. All right. So as everybody drops in their location, we will let Angel introduce herself, and then we will get this live stream going. Angel, you got the floor.
Hello again. I'm Angel Deridorian. I'm a professional musician. I am in LA area. I kind of go between New York and LA, and I'm self-diagnosed ASD1, I guess. So similar to Asperger's.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Uh, it's just ASD now, but a lot of
Yeah.
people still do use the term Asperger's, even though the
Okay.
DSM-5 doesn't. But a lot of people do use that term. I hear it quite frequently. Quite frequently.
Mhm.
Austin, you can hear on your phone, but not the computer. Okay, all right. Just make sure it's not a me thing, and everybody can hear me, and we're good to go. So we got Texas in the house. We have Baton Rouge, Louisiana. All right, Ohio in the house. Let me know where everybody else is checking in from, and we will get going. So I'll start off.
Crazy.
You good to go?
Just
Okay.
the light was bothering me.
Uh,
Okay. This
that could
is
be a sensory thing.
artificial lighting. What's that?
I said that could be a sensory thing. I know what you mean because my lights are also hitting me at a certain angle,
Mhm,
and like right now, you see like a little bit right there. I don't really like
mhm.
that, but I'm like, all right, I'm gonna stay focused. I'm gonna stay focused. San Diego in the house, Australia in the house. Okay, okay. All right, so I'll let you take the floor. So you said you're self-diagnosed autism. What are some of the relationship struggles that you think that you have had? Um, Campbell High School. That's my boy Hank. What's up, Hank? That's my guy, Hank. I love you, my guy. That's my dog. I had to give him a little shout out. All right, Angel, you got the floor.
Okay, so the question was, what kind of relationship struggles have I had
All right.
with autism?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely being misinterpreted because I have really flat affectations. I've people have called me like Daria. I don't know if you remember this show on MTV a long time ago
No, I don't
called
remember.
Daria. So Daria, it was like maybe somebody does over here, but she was just this cartoon character that was very kind of like deadpan and apathetic, seemingly apathetic,
Daria.
and
Hmm.
she's like alternative, like into music, and she had a best friend named Jane Lane, and Jane was also like a punk kind of rocker chick. But people would call me Daria all the time, and definitely in high school, I think it was like really misinterpreted. I was really, and I definitely could see that some teachers didn't like me
Hmm.
because I couldn't like play into their favoritism kind of game. This was acting teachers actually, which is hilarious because like
That's
if
interesting.
anything, if anything, I guess I couldn't act to impress them. And then I had, like groups of friends. I don't know if it's an autism thing, but in high school, I had like a group of girlfriends just like ditch me because I
Mm.
think what happened was that we went on a school trip and we were all sharing a hotel room and I have to sleep, like it's really important. So I fell asleep before them. And I think I talked in my sleep and yelled at them, said something that was probably kind of rude. And after that trip, they stopped talking to me and I asked them why and they wrote me a note that was like, "You know what you did." And like still to this day, I don't know what I did. But I definitely am like really like feeling a little paranoid now about how I communicate with people after learning about the ASD stuff because it's so normal to me and I'm like I didn't even think I was like a logical thinking person, but I am now that I know about this stuff to where that can seem kind of cold or misunderstood in relationships where you need to be able to have some kind of communication that expresses warmth and compassion at times, even if you feel like you have those things, which I certainly do. It's just like someone might be telling me kind of like a traumatic story and I respond very flatly too, which doesn't offend them actually. I think that's why they like talking to me about that stuff. So that would
Ah,
be maybe a
okay.
more positive aspect to it, but, in, like,
People feel
personal
safer with you because you don't have that exaggerated reaction to like unfortunate
yeah,
news. Okay.
or if, like, someone's talking about, a death in their of a close one or something, like, it doesn't register in a certain way for me, but I'm, like, really empathetic too. This is, like, that hypo and hypersensitivity stuff that's talked about with ASD, where there's certain things where it just doesn't compute in a
Mm,
way that maybe someone else would be like, "Ouch, wow, that's wild."
right.
Um, and like romantic relationships, I've probably seemed pretty emotionally unpredictable and overbearing at times or controlling at times because I didn't realize the extent of my kind of like rigidity around home life where I need, everything to be sensory friendly. I didn't even know I was doing this until I got ASD or whatever, or learned about ASD. So it's like I need to make the house exactly how I want to make it if I'm living with a partner, almost. I need to have this kind of space. I need like a lot of time alone, and that can be really offensive to a partner,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they're neurotypical and you haven't like worked out your needs. And so I've definitely had the I don't know which angel I'm gonna get every day kind of comments, and that feels terrible because I'm not trying to be that way. It's
Right.
just like I'm so overstimulated probably and didn't even realize that in the past and wasn't very good at exercising my boundaries and needs that it came out like I'm just some emotionally unpredictable person who, is like subconsciously rejecting my partner.
Mm. And have you ever been able to verbalize that and to let your partner know that, hey, I'm not this cold person that I appear to be, or at that time you weren't aware of, your diagnosis, or you hadn't done the research to make progress into knowing about who you are.
At that the last, like, serious relationship I was in, I did not know I had ASD, but what I did know was that because I had learned a lot about attachment theory, like, my attachment style is disorganized, so I can be avoidant when someone's more anxious and
Mm.
vice versa, and, but what I, like, promised myself in that relationship was to be very direct all the time and, like, express my needs and the thing is that the partner had more anxious tendencies, so I just felt like anything I said wasn't believed because this happens with
Mm.
anxious attachment style, like, And I've totally been the anxious attached person in a relationship where what it means is like you can't really accept the truth of the dynamic and you want to keep reframing it in this fantastical kind of way. So you're like,
Mhm.
oh, that's not what they really mean. And this is our perfect relationship and this thing and that thing. When really it's like, no, we have some like serious stuff we got to talk about and like get
Mhm.
through. And it just kind of shatters the superficiality of this like fantasized idea of a relationship.
Mhm.
So um
Is that helpful or hurtful?
for me, it's helpful to
Okay.
shatter the illusion.
Right.
Sounds so intense.
It makes
But
sense. Like you get to cut through the BS and really get to who that person is. Is that correct?
I wanna know who the person is, you know? I don't want, like, shame or guilt or low self-esteem to get in the way of connecting with a partner for me, and I'm super intimidating to a lot of men because the ASD doesn't like give me the sweetness of certain women and what's expected of women or femme identifying. So
Mm.
I can seem cold, yet it's just that I don't like if I can do all that stuff, by the way. It's just masking is really intense. And I don't want to mask in a relationship that's intimate with me to make another person feel more comfortable because it's pushing me out of my comfort zone. Does
Right.
that make
Well,
sense?
and yeah, right. Congratulations on that because when you take a stand to show up in a relationship as your authentic self, I would say your dating pool cuts in half or even greater than that because a lot of people are incompatible now. But
Yeah.
your chances of getting somebody who is for you increases, in my opinion.
Yes, I'm learning that right now.
You just gotta be a bit patient, a tad bit patient.
Yeah. Yeah, and it really has changed my concept of what love is and what a loving relationship is, too. And getting out of this kind of like Disney-esque facade that we've all been shown from childhood, where it's like, especially for girls, because it's like, oh, a man's gonna come save me and like transform me into something, and then I'll start my life. And you're like, oh my God,
So,
that's not
so
gonna happen. A
now
relation
what do you believe? Because you know a man's not coming to save you now. So,
Mhm.
like, what's your perspective on that?
I
On love?
mean, you really gotta love yourself. Like, and as
Mhm.
cheesy as it sounds, it's like you really have to learn how to love yourself. And I definitely know for people with it's hard for anybody
Right.
to love themselves, but I know there's a lot of pressure that, people with neurodivergent brains have where you're already so stressed out about being socially misperceived and being like outcast socially that you
Right.
have this extra layer, it feels like, of just like, who did I offend? Or what did I do? And like, if I say that thing, it's going to push that person away. And then you're like, I don't care what I say. And it feels like really extreme sometimes. And only a select few people can, like, roll with me
Mhm.
in, like, that regard. So
And have you found more success meeting up with more autistic people or more neurodivergent individuals? Or I'm not sure if we talked about this last time, or you're able to communicate with a neurotypical person and kind of make up for the deficits in terms of where they may not understand who you are.
like, you're saying I can communicate my deficits to a neurotypical person? Is that what you're asking?
Right. Are you able to do that or not?
Yes,
And let
definitely.
me ask this question real quick. So, Leslie, I'll let Angel talk for a little bit, and I do understand that you all will want to get her thoughts and maybe my thoughts. So we'll let her talk, and then I will open up the floor to some questions because I see that you all are able to relate to what she's saying. So we will open up the floor for some questions in a second, but I want her to give us, a general overview of where she feels on this topic. All right.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Totally fine to go into questions whenever. So, Um, yeah, I think like I'm doing a lot of reflection definitely on how my ASD has affected my relationships, because there's also this thing with ASD where people, you can really have your boundaries pushed.
Mhm.
So person like me, I'm very like empathetic. I'm very able to like predict patterns of people's behaviors. So in that way, I'll change myself for those relationships,
Mhm.
or I have done so in the past, to a very like negative level. So it's sometimes I'll get so far into that with a person that I'll cut out. Kind of, it could seem kind of drastic for the other person at times. It's not always
Mhm.
that way. Sometimes I just fade out. Sometimes I like got to cut out, and like that doesn't mean I, reprimand the person or anything. I just stop talking to them. And that makes me be like, am I borderline? And then I'm like, because I can't, like, figure out how to let this person who's not treating me well, like, stay in my life. It's so hard to at times to
It is
understand
hard.
someone else's behavior and whether or not it feels toxic or abusive to you, because I can make up every single excuse for them
Mhm.
because I understand the
Okay.
basis of their personality issues.
Well,
Does that
well, no, it makes sense, but the fact that you're even extending your empathy that far, then you have to give yourself some credit. And in the case of being borderline, now you could have a comorbid borderline personality disorder in addition to autism. I'm sure there's people who fit that criteria. I've seen that before, but just off of not being able to sustain a relationship with somebody who you have to question, I
Mhm.
would call that borderline, but borderline people with borderline personality disorder could do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I definitely think, like, why I don't have borderline is that I'm not creating kind of, like, imaginary situations with me and another person when they're not there. And I think
Okay.
this happens with borderline where it's like, "Oh, this person doesn't wanna talk to me all of a sudden," and, like, and then they start creating this reeling, anxiety-ridden story, and then they get mad at you, uh, or you get, if you have borderline, you get upset with them. I don't do that, but, I will say just a couple things before we go to the question stuff, just a
Mhm.
couple things that I have had to do as a person with autism in regards to relationships, and in regards to my own identity,
Okay.
is that, I grew up in a situation where I learned at a young age that I couldn't really rely on caretakers to meet my needs,
Sorry to
uh,
hear that.
and that's okay. And I was probably high functioning enough to where they couldn't see those needs. So a big part of my personal journey has been learning self-awareness and self-realization, I should say.
Yeah.
So it's a very spiritual path that I've decided
Okay.
to take in my life, which means having a level of autonomy and studying things like non-attachment, because the most important thing to human beings are relationships. That's the most important thing. But we'll create these toxic dynamics or codependency type relationships because we don't feel full in ourselves. We haven't learned to love ourselves yet. We haven't learned to be the partner that we want to be, which means like go live the life that you want, that your ideal partner would have.
Right.
But the way that I had to get there was through a lot of practice of non-attachment, which meant
Mm.
you can't take it personally. You can't take what people do to you personally, even when it hurts. When you're
Right.
like blaming them for your sadness or your heartbreak and all these things, and of course, it's really hard to take that responsibility on yourself because so many people haven't got to the point of loving themselves that um that like how can most relationships work if if that person doesn't love himself and you
Right.
don't, and you're trying to fill the void with each other, and then you can create pretty toxic dynamics. You can create codependency where then you're not doing the thing that you need to do for yourself,
Mhm.
etc. So to me, non-attachment looks like everybody is their own autonomous being, and you respect them. You respect their process, their needs, their differences from you. You don't push, you don't try and start to manipulate them into your paradigm.
Right.
It's I've gotten to a point where I feel really confident in who I am and love myself and all those things, to where now when I engage with people on any level, romantic, business, colleagues, friendships, whatever it is, I'm not afraid to lose the person. I know it'll hurt,
Yeah.
but it'll definitely hurt sometimes, but also it's like, thanks. My mala beads are,
I had no idea what that was. I was like, is that like a sensory thing, or like I
these
had
are it definitely helps with that. If I wear them sometimes, it helps with, like, anxiety and, like, stimming.
mala
But these
beads.
are mala beads are for meditation in Hinduism, and there's 108 beads on here, which represent the, is the degree of the moon's orbit in relationship to the Earth, because we're in a perfect relationship with Earth and the sun
Mhm.
to create physical life on Earth. With
So it's
with
108 beads specifically.
Yeah, and that's representative of how the
That's
moon
tight.
does this orbit thing.
That's tight.
So, side note, everyone.
Mhm.
So, but that definitely, this really does play into my kinds of studies around non-attachment. So, anyway, maybe I'll stop talking there so you can answer people or
All right.
whatever.
Okay. All right. Okay. So chat. We'll get some questions in. Let me see. Honestly, tell me you're mad. Would love to meet someone that can do that without making it a kiss off. I don't understand that comment quite that well. Uh, I'm not sure what
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
sure what you mean by
So
this.
it sounds like they're saying, like, they really want someone to be honest with them and tell them their true feelings, and for that to just be okay and safe. Maybe that's what they're saying, instead of, like,
Uh,
honesty being seen as a threat or seen as some
okay.
kind of like tension. Maybe
Okay.
that's what they're saying.
I think so. Yeah. Look, if you can get one person to tell you the truth, you're doing really good.
These beads are meditation beads, so you do mantra with them. So every time it's for meditation, you'll learn a mantra. There's tons of them, and you're gonna say them with every bead, and it puts you into some Buddhists will, like, if you lose track of your concentration, you have to start all over again. So you can't even get through the whole thing.
So
Anyway,
does it have a focus at all or no?
does what?
Do the mala beads help with focus at all or no?
I don't use them all the time, but when I'm in, like, meditation phases, I might use them sometimes, but they just feel good right now, so I'm using them to stim, honestly.
Okay.
They just feel really
Mala
weird.
beads. I've never heard that before. My first time hearing about it. Mala beads.
Mala beans, these are mostly used in Buddhist and Hindu
Oh,
meditations.
okay. So it's not a Southern California thing. It's a Buddhist
I mean,
thing.
I'm sure there's a lot of spiritual folks in
Yeah.
California that have these, but I don't know if they know have that kind of relationship to them.
Hmm. And maybe agree, and now that disagreement going to talk state. Austin, what do you mean by this? I'm not sure what you
Yeah, okay. I think I understand what Austin's saying.
what he meant.
That, if are you saying, Austin, maybe when you're having, an honest conversation with another person, but you're not seeing eye to eye, that you allow it to be and just accept it, so it doesn't become a toxic issue.
I can see that.
Maybe that's what he's saying.
Okay. Yeah, and
Okay, yeah.
Austin, I think yeah, if you're able to communicate. Now, once again, communication can be difficult, but if you're able to communicate and agree to disagree, before it gets into a state of toxicity, it potentially could save the relationship, and a lot much more, even beyond that. That's a really good, Kobe. It's all good. It's all good. We're here. It's all good. This is a real good question right here. I'm gonna go get some water real quick. But how long did it take you to gain such confidence in loving yourself? I am still struggling with past trauma from previous relationships, including narcissistic abuse.
Mhm.
Still trying to do. I think Gabby Charter too. Still
Mhm.
trying to divorce my past. Okay, you can answer that while I go grab.
Okay. Well, first off, I want to say I'm sorry you had to deal with narcissistic abuse, and I have myself, and it's extremely challenging to get over. Um, I One of my special interests actually became about studying narcissism because I had a particular experience that drove me to really want to learn the signs and signals of narcissism and narcissistic abuse. So this took me about a month of like super special interest studying like hours and hours a day, watching tons of videos on YouTube to then learn. So for me, I guess my answer would be anything that I feel like I is inhibiting me from loving myself, or I'm finding myself in relationships that don't feel good, and I ask myself, why am I staying in something that simply does not feel good? I will go learn about it so that I can have more awareness as to how to manage those things so that ideally I am only in relationships that make me feel good. But it's it's hard to break those dynamics with people, especially if you grew up in a narcissistic household, if you had, narcissistic people around you your entire life. It's so deeply embedded in you that the breaking of that pattern is going to take years and years, probably. And learning to love yourself in the process and know that a lot of those things that those people said were projection, the majority of it. Projection, narcissistic manipulation, narcissistic speak, narcissistic supply, all these things that really, really derail your sense of self. That's why, like, as a person with autism, when I learn about like a condition, that's why I love psychology so much. If I learn about the condition and all the traits, then I just download it and I'm like, now I know what to scan for to know that I don't want to be in that situation again. So, like, that's how it works for me as a person who has more of a logical thinking brain and is very intellectualizing, like, emotions and everything.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so, like, I mean, I've had to learn how to love myself so much, but I also have a musical practice, which is, like for me, I think creative practice is very important that you find ways to exercise your creative self because
Mm.
no one can take that away from you. That's what I say. When you practice and you learn something about your inner self that's creative, and that could just be you making paintings in your house by yourself once a week that no one ever sees if you don't want it. But like that's your creative expression that no one gets to have any kind of say in because they're not the ones making it up. That's you. That's you letting it out. And yeah, the self-hatred stuff, oh, man, I'm sorry. It's so terrible and it's really hard and I have totally been there. Because I don't know if it's a thing with autism, this type of self-perfectionism, um, and like super deep self-analysis, because we're all very deep thinkers. Like we can just go, your mind will just go. And you can just forever. You'll never be satisfied with all of the analytics that you're running in your brain about yourself and how you could be better and how you could look better or be a better partner or better anything. So, like, don't waste your time not loving yourself.
Mm.
Be
No,
kind
no.
to yourself. Fast track this thing because I'm 37 and I'm
Word.
only getting there now. So,
So I'm curious because you sound fairly confident, but I know we're all on a journey. At what point in your life, because you're 37 now, but at what point did you feel like, all right, I I can fend for myself socially, especially when it comes to relationships, and with you being a giver, being able to stay away from takers.
it's still a work in progress, definitely. But I'd say in the last few years, a lot has changed. And a lot had to do with the coming to awareness of subconscious negative self-talk, which we all have.
Mm.
For me, like part of that was like, I'm gonna get really obsessed with hypnotherapy, and I'm gonna learn I'm gonna learn about my past lives and like all the pain of my past lives to understand why I'm like this in this life. And this was all before I learned about ASD and was like, oh, like this is actually what's
Oh,
happening.
oh, so the spiritual journey preceded any type of research about autism.
Oh, absolutely. My entire life has been a
That makes sense.
spiritual journey. Yeah, and like, and that's always feels weird because I think our relationships to understanding what a spiritual journey is like, oh, well, eventually you're going to need to devote yourself to some kind of religion or some kind of spiritual practice completely and give yourself up to God or whatever it is.
Mhm.
But to me, a spiritual journey is a mystical journey. This is the internal path. This is the path of introspection and direct experience that you then process, and you take everything you learn as a lesson, and you don't try and do the confirmation bias thing in your head or the cognitive dissonance thing in your head. Like sometimes you mess up and you got to take accountability for that,
Mhm.
and other times someone else messes up and that's their problem, and that's the hard one for me.
Yeah,
I guess.
it's very important to be able to clearly like like set apart what is your, mess up, f up, versus where they dropped the ball. Because apologizing for things that you didn't do, being overly empathetic, sometimes, believe it or not, these are just things that you do when you're still recovering from trauma. And unfortunately, takers see these things and they latch onto these people. That's why a lot of the content that I make, I always say that neurodivergent individuals are just at a higher risk of abuse in interpersonal relationships. Because if
Mhm.
nobody taught you social skills as a child, when you become an adult and it's time to fend for yourself, you don't know whether somebody wants to be your friend or if they're there to manipulate you, because it all looks the same. So this is
Mhm.
as important as swimming. It's a life skill. It's a life skill, truly.
Yeah. I think we're just going to have to do a lot of self-education on relationships, as everyone should, whether or not you have a neurodivergent brain. But really, the thing that we should all be looking for in every single adult relationship, this is not between a parent and a child, or a parent and or like an adult and a pet. This love is conditional as adults, between two adults, in my
Yeah,
opinion. And
yeah.
the conditions that make it healthy is mutual respect, and it needs to be obvious. So it's not like
That's
it
all
shouldn't
facts. That's
it
all
really
facts.
shouldn't be that complicated when you
Yeah.
do meet. I just met someone recently where I'm like, my mind is blown at how not complicated it is with the person.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, wow, so this is possible, that you will find your people and you will be able to just be yourself.
A thousand
It's
percent.
possible.
Yeah. It's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be that hard. Like you're texting somebody, you're like, "Oh, I haven't heard from this person in 2 months," or they take 5 years to text me back, but I text them back in 5 minutes.
Mhm,
They don't like you, and or you're not a priority to them. They don't owe you anything. You're just not a priority to them, and that's fine. But if somebody is feeling you, you should know. And like you said, it is conditional. Like outside
mhm,
of the love that we receive from our parents and maybe our siblings, all the love that you're gonna have in this world is conditional.
mhm.
It is conditional.
That's why, like, songs that talk about unconditional love and they sound like love stories are very, to me, very dangerous, because it's gonna give people the wrong impression of what love is. That's
And,
not.
I agree, and that's not just an autistic thing. And taking the song literally, that's all of us. We'll all hear love songs and say, "Oh, okay, this feels like like this feels like it feels so good to you," but it's not practical.
It's not practical, and I think it really lends to magical thinking and even, like, limerence, if you know about limerence, which is a type of magical thinking. where then
For
people
sure.
become obsessed with other people
For
and
sure.
creating this like attachment to them when they're not even a part of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that, I guess to go back earlier to what I was saying about how relationships are the most important thing to people.
Mm-hmm.
They are. That's what people make other people feel good as well as they can make them feel bad. But no one wants to be rejected
Mm-hmm.
from society. They don't want to be rejected from their family. They don't want to be rejected from their social circles. They don't want to be fired from their job. Maybe I probably do actually, but like
I like how you speak whatever's on your mind.
I've been fired a lot. Um, but what we tend to do is we become too obsessed with other people and we stop focusing
Mhm.
on ourselves. And as soon as we stop doing that, how would you sit in your own power? How do you, and I don't mean that in a controlling way, I mean that in an empowered way. That's where the love is when you really focus on yourself. And it's very, very hard,
It,
especially
it,
with trauma.
it's very difficult. It's very difficult. Uh, I like it. I can relate to a lot. This is totally off topic. I'm from Ghana, West Africa. I'm from Ghana, West
Oh,
Africa, and I currently live in Los Angeles, California. But
I want to.
say again.
I really want to go to Ghana and eat all the food.
You would be a superstar in Ghana. No, you really, because people don't understand that, like when you're actually, I mean, even me too, coming from the States and speaking the way I speak, they can tell that I'm not from Ghana, or like I don't live there, so they will gravitate towards me. But they love Mexican people, they love Indian people, they love white people. So you come there with that big smile, they're gonna attack, like they're gonna gravitate towards you. You might go to Ghana and never come back, actually.
It looks. I've watched a lot of videos, and it looks great.
You might go to Ghana and never come back.
Yeah,
The people are very
probably.
friendly. Uh, you would love it. And also, the one thing about where I come from, the community there, like talking to my aunts and uncles in Ghana, they're not going to let somebody starve. Of course, it's not like, as capitalistic as it is here. But if me and you are in a community and I don't have any clothes and I'm out and I'm living low on money, I say, oh, Angel lives over there. Angel, can you help me out? Oh, I'd love to. Vice versa. Oh, Angel, you need something? Angel, I got you. Like it would cross, like there's no, you don't realize, it's not like Los Angeles, or I mean, forget LA. It's not like the US where like you can tell, oh, these are the haves and have nots. Uh,
Mhm.
I don't necessarily like that, but like we live in the States where that's just a thing. But you would be loved in Ghana. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind.
One
You
day I'll go there.
you love Ghana. And Yurt says, uh, I long for that type of community. Yeah, that's why I'm attempting to do online, trying to bring people across the globe to this platform. I find it hard to even get out of my apartment. So meeting people is practically impossible for me, which is compounded trauma from past relationships, creating trust issues. So I can't find my people. Ah, so what would you say to
Are
this?
you Yurt? Do you have ASD? Do you know?
If you're still there, are you autistic or neurodivergent? And even if you're not, we will answer this question. Kobe, I appreciate that, my guy. Thank you so much. It brings a smile to my face when I see comments like real community, me too, and uh, ADHD and autism. So is ADHD and autistic.
I don't know if you follow Asian Johnny Cash on Instagram or TikTok, Luca Aria, but he started a community for autistic people, late diagnosed.
Yeah.
And that could be a nice way to connect with people if you feel like you don't really want to leave your apartment too much. And it could be a nice kind of transition into getting back out into social situations and in public again, where you're feeling more confident knowing that you feel seen and heard. But maybe, yeah, maybe you want to check that out. So his community, I'm forgetting the name of his community right now, but it's at Asian Johnny Cash, if you want to join that.
Yeah,
Uh,
me and him are mutuals on Facebook. I like what he's doing on the internet. I like what
yeah,
he's doing.
he's like radical. He's like radical, and which is awesome. It's amazing to see people that are like really wanting to own who they are.
Oh, he has a join my paid community where we unmask. Okay, this
Yeah,
is pretty cool.
so that could be helpful. For you.
Pretty cool. And
Uh,
how do you find your people, Angel? I'm curious.
it's pretty random, honestly. But because I've been in a music community for so long,
Yeah.
like I play music with a lot of people. I collaborate and improvise and, get linked up with other people. It took me about 15 years to find a community that I felt I fit with, which was
Wow.
hard to tell. Like I started to develop a more core group of people who I feel like I can rely on and trust, and I can be open and honest with, and I can, work on like difficult relationship stuff with some of those people, and they stick around because they're willing to do that kind of work. But that was a lot of trial and error and a lot of trauma from the relationships that didn't
Unfortunately.
serve. So I've really put myself at a lot of emotional risk being a musician with ASD and entering into all kinds of relationships because you don't really know what you're getting right away. Uh, but
Music business and autism is it's a hell of a combination because that business in general is just not to say that any business is innocent, but that's one of the more predatory businesses financially, emotionally, just in different ways. So definitely credit to you for being able to navigate that space. That's a tough space for anybody, neurodivergent or not, to
it is.
navigate.
Yeah, and I mean the industry is like one side of it, and it's um it's not the side that I want to give my energy to, I should say. Like I want to find community, and I think it's really important for ADHD autistic people to have communities where they feel understood. You just got to find people. Most of your people, I would say, got to be on the spectrum a little bit with you so that you don't have to just constantly mask like
Yeah,
the ADHD hustle says. And like I get that, and I'm really like stopping myself from masking as much. And even in social situations, I'm like, oh, I probably just weirded that person out. I'm like, I don't really care. I've found enough people in my life who really want to know me now. Where I mean, I'm lucky. I'm very aware of how lucky I am to have the people I have in my life.
yeah.
Very, very lucky.
You
So
got your sister,
yeah,
you got,
really good friends.
that's awesome.
Mhm.
And Lauren says, I've joined multiple YouTube and social media who are autistic. However, I'm early diagnosed, haven't seen anyone else. I mean, that's the only thing we have in common. Hmm. So I think people are on different parts of their journey because, like, for Angel, well, I have to say, this is my opinion. I feel like the years of experience as a musician has given you some sort of a leg up because you've been put in so many different situations. You've been able to like see how people interact, but like you've been forced, like whether you liked it or not, by virtue of what you did in touring, you've been forced into all these social situations. So you just kind of like if you have to unmask for a little bit, you can make it work. You'll be drained, but like you can play that little song and dance for as
Mhm.
long as you need to. And whereas most people who just aren't forced in that environment won't, in my opinion, they won't acclimate to it because there's no need to have to put yourself out there like that.
Yeah. You mean no need to put myself in like these social situations?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, music is what I credit to saving my life, honestly, because I didn't have like the kind of family, and I'm not blaming my family, or any of that, but like I just didn't have that kind of experience growing up where I felt like very reliant on my parents. So I needed to figure out what was going to carry me And of course, it had to be something that I knew how to do, and that was music, which then made me have to go into community with people at a very young age and not really know. Like, I was bullied or terrorized by certain people. I've been gaslit a lot. I've been narcissistically manipulated. I've been in all kinds of toxic dynamics, and I really saw them through for years. And in a way that did lead me to overcome and learn more about myself, but overcome my fears and desires to isolate, because in a way I was dependent on this community regardless of if they were healthy or not for me. I had to survive in this community until I got to a point where I was confident enough or could like support myself enough finally to not have to rely on that. So in ways I credit this toxic journey I've been on in a way to my healing journey. Maybe I wouldn't have gotten there had I not been forced into these situations. Well, forced, quote unquote. But like Temple Grandin, who I talked about last time, who's a famous autistic woman, um, said, and I really agree with her, that if you have autism or you have that desire to isolate, that you do need to be put into social situations and learn how to socialize and learn etiquette and mannerisms that do work with any neurotype, but to not totally isolate and get that exposure therapy in, because you can overcome a lot. And I can't say that's the case for every single person, of course, but like people can push and they can change, and I've pushed extremely hard to be the person I am today. It's exhausting.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I knew you're tired of it, because you know what to do, but now it's like if you choose to unmask and you live with the consequences, that's just you saying, okay, all right, F it. Like I've done everything I could do, and now I just want to be closer to myself in a sense, and just live and die with whatever comes after that.
Yeah. But like, I know not everyone feels safe or where they are, their journey and their life, and like that does need to be honored. And I mean, ultimately, it's like, you know, telling yourself everything's okay. I know that might sound really cheesy, but it's like there's a lot of situations you might be in. If you're in a social situation, your heart's starting to race, or you're feeling out of place. If you know you're safe, you can tell yourself that actually everything's okay. I'm safe. It's okay if these people don't understand me. Like, be okay with, be nice to yourself. If they don't understand you, they don't want to take the time to understand you, they're not your people. But it doesn't mean that there's time. I really want to isolate a lot, because like sometimes interactions are so intense that I'm just like, get me away from it, because I do not want to explain myself.
Gotcha.
So anyway, maybe I'm running on, so maybe look at
Oh,
the.
no, it's good to hear. And in terms of going back to the relationship point, you said that, and let me see what you're saying. Yeah, I've probably for the best, but I felt blessed. I have to start again. I've been at my lowest low for ages, and this just adds. All right, so here's the thing: when somebody who is going through something similar that you're going through or they've been through in the past, when you see them succeed in a certain area, when they make friends, when they make progress for relationships, it lets you know that you could do it. So, Andrew, can you speak on what are you doing now to find your community now in relationships? Yes, but also so we can get some more context for your. What are you doing also in terms of friendships, to like how are you navigating friendships and relationships, knowing everything that you know, that this world isn't perfect, this is a world where you might have to mask to fit in, and it's gonna come at a cost of emotional exhaustion. But what are you doing to with relationships and friendships? How are you moving forward in those two categories?
I have like a motto where I say allow, allow, allow. So allow the situation to be natural. Like you might find yourself attracted to certain people and you really want to get to know them, but they might not be giving you that back. Allow it and just let it be. And then you'll see where that stands. And in a way that's like a natural buffer or natural
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
dynamic that you're creating. You know, it's really about not taking things personally and not thinking there's anything wrong with yourself if somebody doesn't respond to you the way that you would hope they do, maybe. Like, of course, we all got to try and be nice and respectful and like follow some of the social rules of life. That's like masking is a survival technique and it's necessary. I'm
Yeah.
not like anti-masking personally. And I think all people mask, by the way. It's just extra hard
Sure.
for someone.
I'm happy you threw that in. Everybody masks. Just a neurodivergent individual may mask at a much
It's
higher rate.
yeah, it's like so exhausting for neurodivergent people where like I feel like with neurotypical world, it's like lots of neurotypical folks have really, really low self-esteem and they really want to fit in. So they lie or they like mask in different ways where they really don't want to be out of the crowd. Like for me, I don't care. A lot of like I
Right.
don't need to feel accepted by every I have like pretty strong PDA, like the demand avoidance stuff.
Okay.
Very like anti hierarchy, anti imperialism, anti nationalism, like anything that like would make me feel like I have to go along with ideologies that I inherently do not agree with.
And
And
the PDA, is that in interpersonal relationships as well?
PDA can happen in yes, personal relationships when I feel like someone's trying to control me. So that's why I have to partially do the allow because it's like if I want to feel allowed and like accepted by someone else, I have to return that. It
Gotcha.
cannot be a one-way street. So when I moved into that kind of mentality, I started attracting better people into my life.
Okay. And someone says, let's talk about RSD. So RSD is rejection sensitive dysphoria, something that we normally associate with ADHD. But I do believe it is a neurodivergent thing, and it's something that all neurodivergent individuals can struggle with, and just people in general can. Nobody has the best relationship with rejection. What are your thoughts on? Well, actually, let me talk about this real quick while you're off camera. So
Go ahead.
RSD. I have ADHD. So this is something I dealt with as a kid where I would feel rejection and I would get this visceral reaction within me. It'd be like, oh, wow. So you don't like this thing I made. You don't like me. You don't like what I stand for. I would almost say it as if you hate me. And like Angel said earlier, learn not to take everything personally can be helpful for this. If you have to talk it through with your therapist, go ahead and do that. But learn not to take everything like literally will truly save you when it comes to this. Because sometimes people just talk just to get a reaction out of you. Like if people can frustrate you and they can throw you off, you're square, they'll do that. Just to mess with you, just to see if they can get to you. So sometimes just being stoic and just saying, okay, all right, cool. You believe that? Thank you. Thank you. Then they'll be even shocked. They're like, oh, dang it. I'm trying to frustrate this person, but like they're not falling for it. So that's how I deal with RSD, just being as stoic as possible, taking care of any like priorities that I have to take care of, and just moving past that person's opinion of me. They don't know me. They have no idea who I am. So their opinion is not viable to me. And if it's a job that I wanted to get and I didn't get, it's not for me. If it's a
Yeah.
person I wanted to get and I didn't get, it's not for me.
Yeah.
Like Angel said, allow. You have to allow. And it's hard because you can allow for a week. This whole week we could be live streaming every week, and we could be allowing ourselves to do things. And next week you forget. You're like, oh, how do I navigate? You go back to the basics. You allow.
Yeah. The one of the tricky things with autism I'm noticing is the delayed processing. So there's like delayed emotional
Mm,
processing. And it can take me months to be like hurt or feel grief or offended or rejected by people because I'll logically explain the whole rejection
Mm.
and I won't feel the emotions of it for a while. So maybe that's a type of protective measure I've put in for myself. But the other thing I would say to like I guess this sounds like it's some kind of I haven't heard of RSD, but like
Mhm.
oh dysphoria.
Yeah.
Um,
Rejection
I
system.
mean, it's always like if you to me on a spiritual level, I've had to ask myself like if when I feel really rejected, how am I rejecting myself? How am
Mm.
I rejecting myself? That's a question to ask. And it's a really intense question to ask.
Ooh, oh my goodness. Wow, wow. I this I don't know where to take this. This is so Trish, I remember the one other day. This is so helpful for my community because a lot of times people forget that the way you treat yourself is really just a model that people use and the manual and the playbook on how to treat you. So
Mhm.
however you treat yourself, if you just kind of like hold yourself down here and you're like, okay, like, yeah, yeah. People will say, okay, I can treat this person really low. But if you hold yourself up high, you stand up straight, you're vibrant, people are like, oh dang it, I can't manipulate this person. Like, because this person clearly respects himself. So I think putting yourself up top, like treating yourself really high and asking yourself like, all right, I think you said something along the lines of how are you not treating yourself correctly, or how am I not showing up for myself? What do you
Yeah,
say?
and like how am I rejecting myself?
Rejecting myself. That
Yeah.
was beautifully worded because a lot of times when you're so upset about how people are treating you, you might be rejecting yourself in small ways. And if you could fix that, then you're going to dictate a lot more respect, and the way people treat you will be better. It's small things like dressing up to the airport. Like I've done small things. I'm like, oh wow, so people pay attention to small stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I always dress up to the airport now. I have to. I
That's
have to.
cool.
People have random conversations with me about, this is why you don't put the lithium batteries in the plane. Like I need the plane. Like I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. I never would have known anything like this if people didn't just stop to have a random conversation with me.
Mhm.
So these are some of the small things that can be done because a lot of communication is nonverbal. I work with autistic kids right now, most of whom cannot verbally communicate. So how do you communicate when you can't speak? You point, the way you
Mhm.
dress, just the way you take care of yourself. But then self care can be also very difficult as well. So it's like it's like a
Yeah.
seesaw.
Everything is it's intense. All of it is very intense.
Yeah.
And
No,
someone wrote something in here. Oh yeah, vibe. The delayed processing is brutal.
congratulations.
2 days later, did they call me seriously? And then you're like, I should have said this thing. And
Right.
you can't
You're like,
remember.
like
Because
dang,
you're just like, for me, I'm like, why are they saying these things in the moment? And then,
And actually, I did want to ask you about this. I posted a video on YouTube Shorts not too long ago about a kid who still neurodivergent, but he took Adderall for the first time, and he realized that his friends were not really his friends, and they were just there like laughing at him. As
Mhm.
you have made progress on your, autism and your self-diagnosis, have you realized that you had friends or people in your life who weren't there for you, and they're just there for like the ride?
Yeah, definitely. Um, I've been the scapegoat or in like triangulated situations before.
I'm
And
sorry.
my honesty has been used against me. So
Mm,
if because a lot of ASD folks, I would say like they have a really hard time lying and they have a hard time I think we're always all mirroring each other, but because like we have such a hard time lying that like our mirroring is brutal for people who do not want to face themselves.
mhm.
And
Mhm.
if it's in a relationship with two other people, for example, then they can create triangulation against one person, scapegoating.
Right.
So very, very important for people to know when you have like dynamics like that, that if someone starts projecting their issues onto you, or two people are teaming up to feel more in solidarity with each other and their own cognitive dissonance, and you are the butt of that, you're
Mhm.
taking on the brunt of that. Where am I going with that? It's just I that's
What
some
you
of the
mean?
stuff I was realizing was happening to me, and yeah, that until very recently I was experiencing that. So it's not, again, it's like it's still hard. I'm 37. I still like deal with difficult relationships all the time. But the one thing I'm trying to do is just know that it's not all my fault, and it's
Mhm.
not all your guys' fault, you know?
Yeah. And,
We're
and
also Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I'm just saying, Shauna, this live stream and all the live streams are recorded. And Jackie's saying she's 39 and the same thing. So that's what I was saying, Angel. A lot of people are going through the same issue.
Yeah. And it's, I think it also though really can be a great strengthener, our way of viewing or perceiving reality in life. We might be doing other people a service by just being ourselves, where they're being mirrored, and
Yeah.
the way that they're being inauthentic with themselves, and how a person like me is kind of like default authentic. It's not something I like preach or anything, whatever. It's just like I can't not be who I am in a way where it gets me in some shit sometimes. And then I have to be like, okay, I have to figure out how to gracefully exit, or, put some kind of, distance between me and that relationship, whatever it is. But I think what's happening, I was going to say this a minute ago, with a lot of neurodivergent people, we know there's something wrong with society. We all inherently know that,
Yeah.
and that we cannot, in a way, accept it. We can't accept the whole robotic, 9 to 5, work your life away, all that kind of stuff. And so we're actually like very, in my opinion, it feels like you're very spiritual in your approach to living, because you're not okay with the status quo.
Yeah.
You're not okay. And but you are gonna pay for
Uh,
it. In all kinds of ways, you're gonna pay.
Mickey, Vicky, oh my gosh. You're going to pay in relationships. You're going to pay in friendships. You're going to pay. You can pay financially. There's a heavy cost to it. And it's all about setting yourself up to get your basic needs met while being able to be true to yourself, which is a song and dance that is very is like Vibe said, uh, uh, we're vibing on a different frequency.
Mhm.
You know, good.
How many workplaces vibe on your frequency? How many situations can you be in where you can start to meet your basic needs so that you can be comfortable being who you are? It's like this catch 22.
I, I do my best to try and figure out this all the time because I mean I've been fortunate for sure, with this platform and the surrounding brand deals and just like I've been fortunate to be able to have a lot of autonomy when it comes to kind of picking out what I want to do, but at the same time it's I mean I feel a way about how because I'm neurodivergent as well. No, she's hitting the good spots. Like I love the way this woman thinks because like that the world is broken out there, and I mean maybe I'll be okay, but and even then you're never sure, and I'm just talking right now. I'm just talking financially, but maybe I'll be okay, but we're not sure. But even then. Uh, if my people are not okay, then I'm not fully okay. And it gets deep because, like, should I really have to, get almost 4 million followers and all this other stuff just to be able to be like, all right, cool. I might not want to work that 9 to 5 job. Like, you really shouldn't have to do that if you think about it, because I had to exert myself past the point of exhaustion. Really, like I posted maybe 3-4 videos every day for a year and a half.
Wow.
That's not healthy. I self-sabotage a relationship with a woman that I loved. That's not healthy. But I got to this amazing place, and I'm happy I'm here. Don't get me wrong. I love being out the Kojo, but it's not healthy, and it's not teaching people a good model of, okay, this is how you have to. This is what you have to do to make it. Like, anybody can make it if you do it, but like, you have to like push yourself, push, 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 or you can just fall in line with the status quo and say, okay, I'll do this, I'll accept this, and I'm okay with this for the rest of my life. And then you just like this, but then deep down you're like, I'm not being true to myself. Like, I feel like I have more to give. You feel like you're being restrained by the box that society has put on you.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very interesting to see how things like shape up moving forward in the future. And Shauna, look, I do have a team, but now is better than how it was in the past. But I do think that it's we didn't do a water break, but drop the magic word in there. Well, actually, that's a magic word. So anytime we see cheers, we'll do water break. We'll do water break, and then I'll just keep Angel here for just a couple more minutes because we can't stay too long tonight. I know she has to get to some other stuff, and I do too. But let's do a quick water break. Somebody put in cheers. That's a magic word. So we just drink some water. Cheers. If you got some water nearby.
I did want to respond to Yurt, if there's a chance.
What do Yurt say?
Yurt said a couple things about being 20. Yeah, this one here. But
whoever Yurt is, I like Yurt. Yurt's hilarious.
Yeah, Yurt also said that they're terrified at 20 years old that they're already failing at life. So with that and the other comment, if it's all right to answer that.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any special interests that are really like fascinating to you? Let's see.
20 and terrified. I'm already feeling in life.
Tons. So are the like options overwhelming for you, Yurt?
Tons of special interests.
Yeah, are all those special interests like make you hard? It makes it hard for you to decide to focus on one thing specifically. Well, all right. Okay. All right. You can pursue things without money, and I'm here to say that firsthand. And your life is not a failure. I think that it's a really weird, like, Gen Z is having a lot of very different reality than like I'm a millennial, but I'm at the beginning of being a millennial, or like the very start of it, whatever. But I mean, I have a lot of special interests, and I just chose one, and the one choosing music for me didn't cost me much money, but it did force me to be in community where you have to have exchange and you have to like rely on other people to get you further along your path. So the path of like being alone is very hard, and it's very like, as much as like we want to isolate and we don't want to connect at times, like we kind of have to be able to survive. So yeah. I one other thing I felt like compelled to say is that don't limit yourself in like what you're interested in. And I know that can sound really hard, and I've limited myself a lot, But if you know you're here to do something, go do it. Find every single way to do it. You're going to burn out. It's going to happen. But like, it's going to be more rewarding than you going and doing a job that you don't believe in. And people with autism and ADHD are the innovators of the world. So
Yeah.
you gotta use that brain. It's very important. Like,
Yeah.
and people will recognize that. Like, I was in a very popular band when I was 20 years old to 25. I was touring the entire world.
Yeah.
Like huge venues all over the world because I just did the thing that I knew how to do, and I just went and put myself out there as much as I could, and I reached all of my goals in music that I wanted to reach before I was 25 years old. I've played on Jimmy Fallon, I've played on Conan O'Brien, I've played on David Letterman. Like, I've done all these things.
Yeah.
I did the thing that I liked, and that people will notice because we got the hyperfixation. We got this ability, this power too, to really learn and really absorb information and do it in a very unique way.
Yeah.
One of my best friends is ADHD, amazing artist. And just that's their path. And like they have their own struggles, but like their talents are very noticed. So it's like, don't just I don't know. I know this sounds kind of harder than it is, but you're never going to have to you're always going to have to work, and you're always going to have, if you really believe you have something, you have to find any way to do it.
Yeah.
And then it'll get easier at some point, hopefully. But when you're 20, man, it's just beginning.
Right. The world is at your fingertips.
It is, but it's also like a great time to be ambitious and like do things, because in some ways you have so much freedom where you're not being locked into all these things yet, that you can go and like explore.
Try.
And there's even like, human beings don't really start to have a deeper sense of mortality till their late 20s. So you kind of have this invincibility thing. A lot of people in their younger years, they're like, there's all these paths I can take, because their brain is not hardwired yet to like even consider like, oh, my life is finite, and now I need to like pick the things that actually are going to suit me. So
I completely agree, and I'm not gonna hold you for too long, Angel, and take up too much of your time. But the people did want to know where your social media handles were, and I love I love hearing you out, because my acting teacher always says, go for what's possible, not what's probable. And for you to still be thinking, oh no, yeah, I could do like, whatever, but no, this is my dream. This is what I'm following. When you do that at any cost, that's how things normally kind of take off. And I'm not telling people to just like, if something's not working, clearly just like try and, shove a square into a circle. No, like, it might be time to pivot, but that belief of yourself, combined with that neurodivergent hyperfixation, can lead to a lot of amazing things. And I think for a lot of people, it's worth it to at least try. If you're 20 years old, it's worth it to at least try and see where it takes you. You never know where it'll take you, Garrett.
Go deep. Like, I love all the things that I've learned, and I'm really grateful. And I'll say this one thing. This is always what puts me in check when I'm feeling really like isolated or like scared. I do a gratitude practice where I say out loud everything I'm grateful for, and it completely changes my frequency. And that's not in like a woo-woo spiritual way. It's very real, because what we often lose sight of, because we're all obsessed with ourselves and our like, what's happening with our lives. We're always thinking about ourselves. It's like, I'll be like, I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful that I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful that I have food. I'm grateful that I have at least a few people in my life who love me and understand me. I'm grateful that I'm safe. All those things really do help to ground you so that you realize how privileged you actually are to be safe and alive and capable of going and exploring your interests. Like us as Americans, if a lot of people watching from America, we're very, very privileged.
Yeah.
And
Speaking.
a lot of us have much more than we think we have. The
Mhm.
thing that makes us feel like we're in lack is our mind stopping us from coming up with innovative ways, because
Mhm.
this could probably go into, like, weave into how when you're already up against society and like the rules, and you don't like how the rules are, and you find a lot of fault with it, how do you weave yourself into something that feels authentic to you and is going to work for you when you're inherently like kind of against that system?
Right. And-
And you got to
and
find a new way, and that's why we're innovators. We're going to find different ways, and a lot of that can come through community.
I think a lot will come through community.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's
So
awesome. What a talk. And wow, Angel, I love talking the way you're able to articulate things, especially for people in this community who don't realize how much power they have. And I'm going to be so much more intentional about that this year, where not to turn to a rah-rah motivational speaker, but also to get the best of people. Because a lot of times I meet people at a low, at a depressive low. But as we get
mhm.
up, a little bit higher, I want a little bit more out of you. I want to push you a little bit more. Just give me your best at every step of the way. Because when you are succeeding and you have the people around you that you want to have around you, people who care about you, support you, are going through similar things, it makes the victories that much more sweeter.
Yeah. I just don't think any can ever stop trying. Life is a series of experiences. Life is a series of experiences. What kind of experiences do you want to have? It's like
You can do this once.
like that's what I say to myself. I'm just like, "Oh, this would be a really nice experience," or envision what looks awesome to you in your life. And the fact is that you can find it. You will find it. I really believe that. And,
Yeah,
like, it won't
well,
sometimes when you open up to, it won't sit in you yet. That's the other thing, and you have to believe that at some point it's going to sit with you. You're, like, practicing openness, and you're like, "I'm gonna try and, like, go be in a social situation, and, like, I'm open to this," and you still feel weird.
mhm.
Eventually, it'll change. It really will. Like, things will start to sit with you, and that's when you realize your mentality and your manifestation, now it's in line with your intuition. And then the light is green. But there's, like, practicing the openness till you really get the green light. That's another thing I always talk about.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I don't think
You're
a lot of us.
write
This
that manifesto.
it doesn't come to a lot of us naturally, but you're on the money. You are on the money. The reckoning is coming. All right, Angel, thank you so much. I'm not gonna hold you too much longer, but
Yeah,
where do people find you at? Like, what's your preferred social media that you want people to like reach out to you
I
on?
only have Instagram. I can't
Okay,
handle anything more than that, really. But I think if I tried to join the chat before, and
is there
it makes me
Dorian?
like go to YouTube. So I should just like write down. Okay, it's at Dara Doom. DERADOOM is my Instagram. Um, and if anyone's musician and they want like advice on their musical career, I do that. I do consultations, and I'm an astrologer because I'm insane. 'Cause I have to try all my special interests out. But thank you for typing that in there. Um, and yeah, anyway, I mean, that's where I'm at, and thanks, Kojo. It's always
Anytime.
nice
No,
talking with you.
it's definitely been a pleasure to talk to you this week and last week. And hopefully when I get back to LA, if you ever want to collab, like I'll message you off air about that.
Yeah, of course, please. And to all the people in the chat, best of luck to you. You're all very creative, wonderful people. Don't forget. So
Take care, Facebook. Thank you so much.
thanks. See you next time. Bye.